the scourge of any end of the year list is a great album that comes out in the last week of the year or so. I had to learn this the hard way, as an album that I was waiting for came out on the 14th of December, by which point I already had my lists prepared. The album I'm talking about is the third release by a Canadian self-described technical grindcore band, Kataplexis. Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, this is Kataplexis. While Kataplexis prefer to describe their music simply as technical grindcore, I think it's more like tech-savvy brutal death high out of its mind on some weird grind-inducing designer drug. And if that happens to be too abstract, here's another definition. It's technically sound brutal death with less emphasis on technicality, the brutality turned up to 11 and supercharged with the mindless speed and savage aggression of grindcore. The guitars bring sledgehammer heavy death and grind riffs one after another, and sometimes in concert, the vocals are positively menacing, tearing through the blazing tracks, and the drums. Dear God, the drums. I think Dave Callahan is related to an octopus or something, because the way he keeps cranking out cymbal and fill-heavy parts, as well as his propensity for pulling off hyper blasts and super fast D beats is just fucking uncanny. Well, as you might be gathering, Kataplexis offers an intense experience. It's a gripping album that has you at the edge of your seat every moment, never allowing you to rest or to breathe for that matter. From the very first moments of Death Rain to the final moment of the closing track, Decrepit Tomb, the ever-shifting riffs, the volatile flow of the tracks, and the sudden shifts manage to command your attention. There's also the fact that these songs don't always stop one part to move into another. An example of this would be Crown of Malevolence, which simply puts you through a continuous gauntlet of changing riffs without stopping to end one or to announce the arrival of the next. As can be inferred, Kataplexis have it down where song and album flow is concerned, but it doesn't stop there because the album also has a very solid, very recognizable atmosphere. This atmosphere is positively claustrophobic. The album just bears down on you from all sides, squeezing you in and then choking the life out of you. This would have been pretty much impossible if every song sounded the same, but Kataplexis managed to avoid that. I mean, sure, the aim is to terrorize you with dismal, dark, dank, and devastating music, but there are moments where this gives way to more nuanced passages. With the menacing immediacy of tracks like Necrotic Wasteland or the high tension of Terrors, you also get things like the end of We Are the Destroyers of Self, or a very, very low dose of hardcore with a surprisingly upbeat twist in the song Putrescent Remains. The closing track, Decrepit Tomb, is actually a high point regarding this because it brings slightly crusty black metal of all things into the mix and marries that to grind before even all of that sort of dissolves into a pile of otherworldly noise and atmosphere, bringing the album to a wonderfully intense conclusion and leaving you feeling like you just got exorcised. Of course, none of this would have made the impact that they have without a decent production, and the production on Kataplexis is actually a step up from their previous effort Downpour in that it is tighter, thicker, and has a fuller sound. In fact, the sound is so heavy that the lack of a bass player isn't even a thing, and you barely have time to notice that anyway. But I do have a rather minor issue with the production, and it is that hard panning the cymbals may not have been the best of ideas. The drum parts are pretty cymbal heavy as it is, and intermittently hearing hits from the hard left or hard right can be a bit distracting at times. Other than that slight problem, I think the production is well fitting for an album like this. Now, so far so good, but I do have a few minor complaints relating to, you guessed it, the bane of my fucking the opening. Look, opening an album such as this with a meaningless quote-unquote track of pure noise makes no fucking sense whatsoever. Why the fuck not start with Death Rain? I mean, do I really need Permeating the Void to add nothing to the album? Similarly, could the interlude before the closer, Forlorn, been a little shorter? I get it. It sets up the final track and offers a moment of contemplation, lulling us into a false sense of security before unleashing hell, but it is a little bit abrupt in its execution. I mean, the first time I heard it, I thought it was just the end of Putrescent Remains, but having it as a separate track on the track list is just... no. You could have just made that the intro of Decrepit Tomb and been all the better for it. Just saying, guys. Well, apart from this, Kataplexis have managed to create a dazzling, violent, uncivilized fucking monster of an album. Highly recommended for fans of death metal, grindcore, brutal death, death grind, and all associated genres. If you've already listened to this album, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. If you haven't, what the fuck are you doing still listening to this review? There's a Bandcamp link in the description. Scroll down, click it, and go listen right fucking now. And if you like this video, please subscribe and help me get enough human sacrifices to summon an entity whose name I just cannot pronounce. Peace out.